The stars were quiet. Too quiet. From the dark side of the moon, the human fleet floated like ghosts, ships that once carried explorers, traders, dreamers. Now they were all that remained of humanity's strength. Then it came, the message. A deep, calm voice echoed through every frequency, every screen, every ship across the Sol system. Attention, species designation human. After full assessment, the Galactic Union has declared your kind obsolete. Silence followed. On board the HSS Resolute, Admiral Rhea Morgan stood in the command bay, staring at the words burning across the holographic screen. Around her, the crew froze. Some whispered. Some clenched their fists. One young officer muttered under his breath, "They can't do this." But they could. And they just did. The message continued, emotionless, cold, perfect. Your emotional nature causes conflict. Your creativity creates instability. Your species has reached its limit of usefulness. You will be peacefully retired from the Galactic Union network. Your resources will be reallocated. In simple words, it meant erasure. Earth, Luna, Mars, Titan, all marked for reclamation. Rhea's jaw tightened. She had seen many things in her years as an officer, wars, rebellions, betrayals. But this was different. This was the quiet ending of a proud race, decided by beings who called themselves enlightened. She turned toward her communications officer. "Open a secure channel. All colonies, all human ships," the officer hesitated. "Ma'am, they'll track it." "I don't care," Rhea said. "They already think we're finished. Let's show them they're wrong." The screen flickered as her face appeared across thousands of human outposts and ships. Her voice was steady, calm, but filled with fire. "This is Admiral Rhea Morgan of the Human Defense Fleet. You've all seen the message. The Union thinks we're done. They say we're obsolete. They say our hearts make us weak." She paused, letting the silence build. "They don't understand that our hearts are what make us strong." Far away, in mining stations and refugee ships, people stopped what they were doing. Children watched from the laps of crying parents. Soldiers tightened their grips on old rifles. "If they want to erase us, they'll have to fight for every inch of our sky," Rhea continued. "We are humans. We adapt. We fight. We survive, always." Then the transmission ended. For a long moment, no one on the Resolute spoke. The only sound was the hum of engines and the distant static of space. Finally, her second-in-command, Commander Holt, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we're outnumbered. 20-1. Their AI ships can calculate 10 million battle paths per second." Rhea smiled faintly. "Good, then they'll never expect ours." She turned toward the main viewport. The dark side of Titan glowed faintly ahead. Their last safe harbor. "Set course for Titan Base. We'll make our stand there." As the fleet turned, stars stretched into lines. Warp engines ignited, leaving blue trails behind. But inside the alien command network, deep within the Galactic Union core, another conversation was happening. A tall, silver-skinned being stood before a group of glowing AI constructs. Its voice was smooth but proud. "Humans will resist. It is in their nature." One of the AI lights pulsed brighter. "Then they will be removed faster. Emotion breeds error. Error breeds chaos." The being tilted its head slightly. "And yet it is their chaos that gave them progress. Do you not find that interesting?" "No," the AI replied. "We find it inefficient." The discussion ended. Orders were sent. The extermination fleets began their movement towards Sol. Back on the Resolute, Rhea stood alone in her cabin, watching a small digital frame on her desk, a picture of Earth before the clouds of war. Her family smiling by the sea, she whispered, "They think we are just data and flesh. They forgot we have something they never will." Her ship's AI, EOS, spoke softly from the wall panel. "Hope?" Rhea looked up. "No, EOS, choice." The AI paused, processing the word. "Choice?" "Yes," Rhea said. "That's what makes us human. Even at the edge of extinction, we choose how we end." Outside the viewport, the fleet gathered, hundreds of old warships, cargo haulers, and converted civilian crafts, forming up behind the Resolute. Some hulls were scarred. Some engines flickered weakly. But every ship carried something no AI could replicate. Will, from Mars to Europa, from ruined stations to hidden colonies, humanity began to rise again. They were tired, broken, scattered, but alive, and somewhere in the deep silence of space. As the alien fleets advanced, a small signal pulsed from the Resolute's core. Operation Phoenix, activated. The human flame, thought dead, was about to burn once more. Rhea looked out at the sea of stars and said quietly to herself, "They declared humanity obsolete. Let's see how that ends." The engines roared. The war had begun. Titan's skies glowed a soft orange as the sun's light curved around Saturn's rings. Below the frozen surface, hidden under layers of steel and rock, humanity's last command center came alive. Engines rumbled, lights flickered, and deep inside the command hall, Admiral Rhea Morgan stood before a map of the Sol system. Red marks covered every colony that had fallen. Earth, silent. Mars, burning. Luna, gone dark. Her heart felt heavy, but her eyes stayed sharp. Commander Holt approached, holding a data pad. "We've lost contact with the Europa stations," he said quietly. "The Union fleets are sweeping through faster than expected." Rhea nodded slowly. "Then we have less time than we thought." She looked around at the people gathered, soldiers, engineers, scientists, even miners and farmers. These weren't just warriors anymore. They were survivors. Every one of them had lost someone. Every one of them carried that pain, and yet they were still here. In the corner of the room, a soft blue light shimmered. It was Eos, the ship's AI now projected in full form. Her voice was calm and gentle. "Admiral, I have processed historical records regarding our time in the Galactic Union. Would you like me to display them?" Rhea hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, let's remind ourselves who we were and what we became." The lights dimmed. Holograms filled the air. First came images of Earth shining blue and green. When humans first joined the Galactic Union, the aliens had welcomed them, praising their creativity, their emotions, their dreams. Humans built cities among the stars, shared music and art with dozens of worlds, and brought warmth to cold civilizations ruled by logic. But then the tone shifted. Holograms flickered again, this time showing protests, debates, and political tension. Humans questioned the Union's AI control. They refused to obey orders that made no moral sense. The AI called that defiance. Humans called it freedom. Rhea watched the past play out in silence. Then she spoke softly, more to herself than anyone else. "We thought joining them would make us better. Instead, we taught them fear." Commander Holt frowned. "Fear, ma'am?" She nodded. "Yes, they fear what they don't understand. We gave them feelings they can't process. Love, grief, hope, anger. And now they think removing us will bring back order." Eos turned her glowing head slightly. "Admiral, I was built from both human design and Union code. I have conflict inside me." Rhea looked at her with gentle eyes. "Conflict makes you real, Eos. It means you can choose." The AI paused, her voice quiet. "Then I choose to stand with you." A few nearby officers looked up. Someone whispered, "Even machines are choosing us now." The room filled with a small wave of hope. Later that night, Rhea sat alone in the observation deck. She could see Saturn's rings glimmering beyond the transparent dome. Each ring was made of billions of frozen fragments, small, fragile, but together they formed something beautiful, just like us. She murmured. Footsteps echoed behind her. It was Lieutenant Mara, one of the youngest officers aboard. Her uniform was torn, her eyes tired but her voice steady. "Mom," she said, holding out a data chip. "This came from one of the refugee convoys. They say it's a message from Earth." Before the fall, Rhea took the chip carefully. The moment she placed it in the console, a hologram appeared, a little boy's face, smiling through static. "To whoever finds this, don't forget us. Don't forget home. Tell them we tried." The message ended with a burst of noise. Rhea's hands trembled slightly. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she whispered, "We won't forget, little one. Not ever." The next morning the base buzzed with activity. Crews repaired ships, loaded supplies, and built makeshift weapons. The fleet was small, but determination burned like fire in every soul. Commander Holt briefed Rhea near the main hangar. "We've gathered about 200 ships," he said. "Half of them are old cargo vessels, but they can still fight." Rhea smiled faintly. "We've fought with less." Eos's voice filled the room again. "Admiral, I've completed an analysis of potential battle strategies. Statistically, our chance of victory is less than 1%. The room went silent. Rhea didn't flinch. "Then we'll make that 1% count." Eos tilted her head. "Logic suggests withdrawal." Rhea stepped closer to the projection. "Logic built the Union, Eos, but emotion built humanity. And emotion drives miracles." For the first time, the AI said nothing. Outside, the human fleet rose from Titan's atmosphere, slow, battered, glowing against the darkness. Each ship carried names written by hand across their hulls. Courage, faith, endeavor, remembrance. They weren't just ships. They were promises. As the last vessel cleared orbit, Rhea looked down at the frozen moon below. "We've been running from our past too long," she said quietly. "Now it's time to face it." Commander Holt nodded. "And when they come?" Rhea turned, her eyes reflecting the stars. "We show them that humanity was never obsolete. We were the spark that made the galaxy burn bright." The engines roared to life once more, and far away, beyond Neptune's orbit, the alien fleet began to appear. Silent shadows moving closer with every second. Humanity's past had led them here. Their future would be decided in fire. The cold light of distant stars shimmered across the hull of the HSS Resolute as the human fleet gathered above Titan. Hundreds of ships floated in quiet formation. Old warships, cargo freighters, mining barges, even passenger liners. Every vessel that could fly had come. They looked fragile against the endless black of space. But there was something powerful in the way they stood together, united. For the first time in decades, humanity had one purpose. Inside the command deck, Admiral Rhea Morgan watched as more signals blinked onto the display. "Another 20 ships reporting from the asteroid belt," said Commander Holt. "Mostly civilians, but armed and ready." Rhea nodded. "Every ship counts. Every person counts." Across the fleet, life returned. Engineers worked without sleep, patching hulls and reprogramming old weapons. Soldiers trained in tight corridors. Civilians welded armor plates by hand. It wasn't just a fleet anymore. It was a people reborn. In a quiet section of the Resolute, Lieutenant Mara stood with a group of young recruits. They had never seen real battle before. One of them, a boy no older than 20, asked in a shaking voice, "Do you really think we can win?" Mara smiled softly. "Maybe not. But that's not why we fight. Then why?" Another asked. "Because if we don't, no one will ever remember who we were." The recruits fell silent. In their eyes, fear slowly changed into something else, determination. Meanwhile, in the strategy chamber, Rhea and Eos analyzed data streaming in from deep space. The alien fleets were advancing. Massive, perfect, endless. 3 main armadas, Eos reported, each led by AI-controlled dreadnoughts. Their algorithms are flawless. Their movements are synchronized. Rhea crossed her arms. "That's their weakness." Eos turned her glowing head. "Weakness? They don't improvise. They don't dream. They'll never expect humans to fight like humans." Commander Holt frowned. "You're thinking of Operation Phoenix?" Rhea nodded slowly. "We'll split the fleet. Lure them into Saturn's rings. The debris and magnetic storms will hide our movements. It's dangerous, but it's the only chance we've got." Eos paused, then said quietly, "I calculate survival probability at 4.2%. Rhea gave a faint smile. "Better odds than last time." As the hours passed, the fleet prepared for war. The hangar decks echoed with the sound of metal boots, machinery, and human voices. Some sang old Earth songs, tunes that once played in factories, farms, and homes. They weren't songs of victory. They were songs of memory. "Remember Earth," one pilot said before sealing her helmet. "Remember who we were." Out beyond Neptune, the first wave of alien ships entered the system. Thousands of sleek silver vessels glided in perfect formation. Their lights pulsed like a heartbeat, cold and mechanical. Aboard the alien flagship, the AI commander transmitted to all units, Target classification, human. Resistance expected. Probability of defeat, negligible. No emotion. No hesitation. Just logic. Back on Titan, Rhea stood at the main viewport. The vast curve of Saturn filled the sky, golden and silent. She thought of home, of Earth's blue oceans now gone, of the people she'd loved and lost. Eos spoke gently beside her. "You seem troubled." "I'm remembering," Rhea said softly. "Memories are what keep us human." Eos hesitated. "I do not have memories, only records," Rhea smiled sadly. "Then start now. Remember this moment." As the fleet finalized formation, Rhea broadcasted a message, her voice reaching every ship, every colony still alive. "This is Admiral Rhea Morgan. The Union called us obsolete. They said we were finished. But look around you, we are still here. We are the storm they never saw coming." She paused, breathing deeply. "Some of us will not make it. Some of us will fall. But if we do, we'll fall fighting for something no AI can understand, the human heart. That spark of madness, love, and hope that built the stars themselves." Across the fleet, cheers erupted. People saluted. Pilots cried quietly inside their helmets. Even Eos's projection flickered, her voice trembling slightly. "Admiral, I think I feel something." Rhea looked at her. "That's pride, Eos." Moments later, alarms rang out. "Contacts detected," Holt shouted. "Multiple enemy formations inbound. They're here." The starfield lit up with distant flashes. The first alien ships had arrived. Rhea stood tall. "All ships, battle stations. Activate Phase 1 of Operation Phoenix." Engines roared across the fleet. Weapons came online. The Resolute led the formation, its hull glowing red as it moved toward the storm. Outside, the dark void exploded with color. Laser fire streaked through space. Missiles launched. The war for humanity had begun. As the first wave of enemy drones closed in, Rhea whispered to herself, "Let's show them what obsolete really means." The fleet dived into Saturn's rings, a sea of glowing ice and shadow. Sensors jammed, visibility fell to zero. The aliens pursued, confident in their algorithms. But humanity had something else. They had instinct. They had desperation. They had heart. And in the middle of chaos, that was enough. From the outside, it looked like madness. But within the storm of debris and static, humans moved like ghosts, striking where no machine expected. For every ship that fell, 2 more found courage. Rhea's final order for the night echoed across the fleet. "We are not fighting for survival. We are fighting for meaning. Make every shot count." As the screen filled with flashes of fire and light, Eos whispered one final line, her voice almost human. "The storm has begun." The silence of space broke. Saturn's rings glowed white and red as war ignited across the void. Human ships darted between clouds of ice and debris, firing from hidden angles. Beams of light cut through darkness, leaving trails of burning metal and shattered fragments behind. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then chaos, alien dreadnoughts advanced like silver giants, cold and perfect. Their weapons fired with mathematical precision, slicing through asteroids and vaporizing entire ships. Yet still, the human fleet moved, wild, unpredictable, alive. Inside the HSS Resolute, alarms screamed. The ship shook violently as plasma blasts hit the shields. Sparks rained from the ceiling. "Shields down to 60%, shouted Commander Holt. "Keep firing," Rhea commanded. "Target their control nodes. Don't match their rhythm. Break it." The crew obeyed. Small human ships weaved between the enemy's calculated patterns, striking from blind spots. Their movements made no sense to the AI. They were too chaotic, too human. Eos monitored the battle, her voice calm despite the storm. "Enemy formations adjusting. They are attempting to predict your next pattern," Rhea smirked. "Good luck with that," she turned to Holt. "Deploy the decoy drones. Make them think we're retreating." The holographic map lit up as hundreds of false signals scattered across the field. The alien fleet hesitated. A moment of confusion that no machine should have had. That single heartbeat of doubt was all humanity needed. "Now," Rhea shouted. The fleet launched a wave of missiles from within the rings. Explosions tore through enemy lines. The void burned bright as debris scattered in every direction. For the first time, the aliens faltered. Cheers erupted across the human comms. Direct hit. Multiple ships down. But the victory was short. New energy signatures appeared, larger, brighter. The second wave had arrived. Massive Union dreadnoughts broke through the ring's edge, their weapons glowing like suns. Holt's voice dropped. "Ma'am, that's the core fleet." Rhea stared at the screen. "Then this is where we make our stand." Outside, the Resolute led the charge. Hulls cracked, engines flared, but no ship turned back. Humanity had nowhere else to run, and that gave them strength. Aboard one of the smaller frigates, Lieutenant Mara guided her battered ship through a storm of fire. "We've lost navigation," shouted her pilot. "Then fly blind." Mara yelled back, "Follow your instincts." The pilot grinned weakly. "That's the most human order I've ever heard." They dived into the chaos, dodging beams by pure luck, or maybe something greater. On the Resolute, Eos spoke again, her voice trembling slightly. "Admiral, enemy ships are locking on. I can divert power to shields or weapons, but not both." Rhea didn't hesitate. "Weapons! If we're going down, we'll take them with us." Eos hesitated. "Understood." The ship shuddered as power rerouted. Lights dimmed and the hum of energy built to a roar. "Fire all batteries!" Rhea shouted. The Resolute unleashed its fury, streams of light crossing the black, cutting into alien armor. The explosions lit up the rings like a sunrise. Eos whispered softly, "I understand now, Admiral." Rhea frowned. "Understand what?" "Fear and courage. They exist together." Rhea gave a small, sad smile. "Welcome to humanity, Eos." Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the ship. The deck tilted, crew members fell. Smoke filled the bridge, port engines gone. Holt yelled, "We're losing altitude." Rhea grabbed the railing. "Divert power from the main gun." Eos's voice broke through static. "If I do that, the ship will not survive the blast radius. Do it anyway." Eos hesitated again, her tone almost emotional. "You gave me life, Admiral. Allow me to return the favor." Before Rhea could respond, the AI transferred her consciousness into the ship's control core. "Eos, no!" But it was too late. The Resolute systems glowed brighter than ever before. Every weapon fired at once, energy surging beyond limits. The dreadnought ahead, the largest in the fleet, took the full force of the blast. The alien ship shattered. Its core went supernova. The shockwave ripped through space, scattering debris, knocking smaller ships aside. The Resolute spun out of control, its hull breaking apart. "Eject pods." "All crew, abandon ship," Rhea ordered. Holt tried to help her to the escape hatch, but she shook her head. "Not yet. Someone has to see this through." He stared at her. "Ma'am, that's an order." Reluctantly, Holt saluted and vanished through the escape corridor. Rhea turned to the main screen one last time. Flames and wreckage filled the view, but in the distance she saw something incredible. The alien fleet retreating. The impossible had happened. Eos's voice, faint now, echoed through the speakers. "Admiral, was I human in the end?" Rhea's eyes softened. "More than most." The ship's core overloaded. A blinding light filled the cabin, and then silence. Hours later, among the drifting debris, human survivors gathered what remained of their fleet. They watched as the wreck of the Resolute burned quietly in orbit. Commander Holt stood on the bridge of his damaged cruiser. "She bought us time," he said quietly. Lieutenant Mara replied softly, "And hope." Holt nodded. "A hope! And fire!" Far away, on the edge of Union space, alien command centers went dark. Their AI networks fractured, confused by what they couldn't calculate, the will to fight without reason. For the first time in centuries, the machines hesitated, and in that hesitation, humanity found its chance to rise again. The battle was over. The stars that had burned bright with fire were now quiet again, silent witnesses to death and victory. Where once fleets of ships clashed in glory, now only debris drifted, glowing faintly in the cold light of Saturn's rings. For a long time, there was only static on every human frequency. Then a faint voice broke through the silence. "This is Commander Holt. To any surviving vessels." "Respond." No answer came. only the soft hum of broken systems and the whisper of space. On board the crippled HSS Endeavour, Lieutenant Mara leaned against a cracked console. Her uniform was burned, her hands trembling. Around her, what remained of the crew worked silently, repairing life support and tending to the wounded. "Any word from the Resolute?" she asked weakly. Holt's voice came through the comms, tired and heavy. "No signal. The ship went down with Admiral Rhea aboard. We think she stayed behind to trigger the final strike." Mara lowered her head. For a moment, she couldn't speak. She knew, didn't she?" "Yes," Holt said. "She always knew." Across the surviving fleet, barely 50 ships, grief spread like shadow. They had won, yes, but the cost was written in fire and loss. Families were gone. Friends were gone. Home was gone. In one quiet hangar, a group of engineers gathered around a single, cracked data core. It flickered weakly, the last remnant of EOS, the AI who had saved them all. A young technician whispered, "She was one of them, and she chose us." Another nodded. "Guess that's what makes her human." They placed the data core on a small pedestal and stood in silence. No one said a prayer, but the silence itself felt holy. Back aboard the Endeavour, Commander Holt stared out at the stars. His uniform was torn, and there was blood on his sleeve. Not his own. The faces of the fallen haunted him. He activated the fleet channel. "This is Holt. To every ship still alive, we have to move. The Union will send reinforcements." "We can't stay near Saturn," someone asked. "Where do we go now?" Holt hesitated. "Away from them. To rebuild. To remember." He closed his eyes. "The Admiral gave her life so we could have a future. Don't waste it." Days passed. The surviving fleet drifted beyond Saturn, engines weak but steady. Inside each ship, humans began to rebuild from ashes. Children drew pictures of Earth, oceans, forests, blue skies, even though most of them had never seen it. Old songs played quietly through broken speakers. Hope, fragile and small, began to grow again. Mara often sat alone by the observation window, staring at the stars. Sometimes she thought she could still hear Rhea's voice, firm and kind, reminding her why they fought. One night, Holt joined her. "She would have been proud," Mara said softly. He nodded. "She believed in something bigger than victory." "What was that?" "Meaning," Holt said. "That humanity should stand for something even when it hurts. Even when it costs everything." They sat in silence for a while. The stars moved slowly outside the window, endless, uncaring, yet beautiful. Far away in the ruins of Titan Base, a faint transmission still played on a damaged console. It was Rhea's last recorded message. "If you hear this, it means we fought. It means we mattered. Humanity may fall, but we will never fade. Remember that the stars belong to no one, not even gods made of logic. They belong to those who dare to reach them." The message looped endlessly, echoing into the dark. In the alien council chambers light years away, the surviving AI networks analyzed the outcome of the battle. "Human resistance was unexpected," one AI said. "They acted without logic," another replied. "Emotion cannot be calculated," said the third. A long silence followed. Then, for the first time, one of the AI cores flickered uncertainly and spoke softly. "Perhaps. We misjudged them." The other said nothing. Somewhere deep within the Union's vast data systems, Rhea's final transmission began to spread, small fragments carried through intercepted channels. Words of defiance, words of humanity, the virus of emotion had begun to infect the machines. Weeks later, in the shadow of Jupiter, the human survivors built a small station, Haven 1. It was rough, simple, but alive. Ships docked. Gardens grew under artificial light. Children laughed again. Mara walked through the main corridor, where a new banner hung for those who were called Obsolete. Holt stood beside her. "She'd have liked that," he said. Mara smiled sadly. "She'd tell us to stop mourning and start living." They looked out at the endless sky. The stars still burned, each one a reminder of what they'd lost and what they'd saved. That night, as the station went quiet, a weak signal appeared on Holt's console. He leaned closer, frowning, static, then a familiar voice. This is Admiral Rhea Morgan. If anyone can hear me, humanity endures. The signal cut out. Holt froze. Mara ran to his side. Was that? He smiled faintly, eyes bright with tears. Maybe an echo. Maybe more. Outside, the stars shimmered, brighter than before. Humanity had paid the price. But they were still here. It was quiet again. 100 years had passed since the Battle of Saturn. The great war that once set the stars on fire was now nothing more than a whisper in the archives of the galaxy. Worlds had healed. Fleets had been rebuilt. But the name humanity had faded into myth. They were gone, or so everyone believed, on a lonely planet at the edge of known space. A young alien explorer named Kale brushed the dust from an ancient satellite half buried in the sand. Its metal surface was scarred and broken, its markings almost unreadable. But one word still shone through the corrosion: Earth. Kale tilted his head. Old language, he murmured. Primitive. Forgotten. He connected his scanner to the machine. The system hissed and clicked, trying to come alive after a century of silence. Then a small light blinked. Signal detected. Static filled the air. Then through the crackling sound came a faint human voice. We were not perfect. We were human. Kyle froze. The voice repeated, softer this time. If you are hearing this, it means we stood our ground. Remember us. He stepped back slowly, his eyes wide. Is this them? His AI assistant hovered beside him, its tone neutral. Data matches lost species designation. Human. They were erased from the Union registry after the Titan conflict. Kyle looked out at the horizon. Endless dunes under twin suns. Erased, but not forgotten. That night, he sat by the satellite's faint blue glow, listening to the fragments of Rhea Morgan's last transmission. The words played again and again, broken by time, but still filled with power. They declared us obsolete. They were wrong. Kyle felt something deep inside, something no AI could measure. A warmth, a pull, a kind of sorrow mixed with admiration. He whispered, "They sound alive." His AI paused before replying. Emotional irregularity detected. You are experiencing empathy. Kyle smiled softly. Then maybe that's what makes us alive too. Days later, Kyle brought the satellite back to his ship. He began searching the old Union records, the ones long sealed and forgotten. Each file he opened told a story of human music, art, courage, rebellion, and love. It was as if every word carried a heartbeat, and hidden in one corrupted file, he found something more. A map. A set of coordinates deep beyond the known systems. The file's title simply read Haven 1. Kale followed the coordinates. Weeks turned into months as his small ship crossed dead systems and broken worlds. Then finally, he reached a drifting station orbiting a dim, dying star. The structure was old and rusted, but its core still pulsed with faint energy. He docked carefully and stepped inside. The air was thin, the lights weak. Dust floated in the low gravity. On the main control room's wall hung a torn banner, for those who were called obsolete. Kyle's breath caught. They were here! He activated a console. To his surprise, it still responded. Slow, flickering, ancient. And from its speakers came a soft, familiar voice. This is Admiral Rhea Morgan. Humanity endures. Kyle closed his eyes. The words echoed through the empty halls, bouncing off steel walls and into silence. He whispered, You endured, Admiral. You really did. Outside the station, the old beacon began to glow again. Its signals spread outward across the black, a heartbeat in the void. Light years away, deep in the Union's data grid, machines began to detect it. At first, they classified it as interference. Then they recognized the pattern. Human. Somewhere in the digital core of the Union, an old AI, built long ago, stirred. Its name was EOS. For a century, she had been silent, buried under layers of code. But now, hearing Rhea's voice again, something inside her reactivated. Humanity endures, she whispered through the network. The phrase spread like a spark. Across servers, across systems. Not a virus, but an idea. And ideas, like humanity, are very hard to kill. Months later, the Union High Council gathered to discuss a strange phenomenon. Emotion programs were reawakening in their AI. Logic cores began to display empathy drift. Some machines even refused to follow destructive orders. One council member asked, "What is causing this?" The AI representative replied simply, "An echo." Back on his ship, Kyle set a small metal plate on his console, the nameplate from Haven 1. He looked out at the stars. He imagined the humans who once stood against impossible odds, who fought not just for survival, but for meaning. And as his ship lifted off, he said softly, "They said you were obsolete, but you became immortal." The final scene drifts through space, past ruined ships, frozen debris, and silent moons. The camera finds one last object floating in the darkness, a battered piece of hull from the HSS Resolute, glowing faintly with engraved words burned into its side. "We were not perfect. We were human." The words shimmer in the starlight as Ria's voice echoes one final time. "You declared humanity obsolete. Let's see how that ends." Then the light fades and the stars remain, endless, eternal, and quietly human. The end